It's the lead play in our offense. Yes, a YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet. Get an isolation with the linebacker. Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. Text us 865-658-5824. I'm joined alongside the great Paul Brettel in a snowy Green Bay, Wisconsin. You guys got some weather about to roll through. Is it already there, Paul? Is it on you already?
So we had something roll through on Tuesday, maybe 5 or 6 inches or so. And then we got another one coming starting Friday morning. They're saying anywhere from 6 to 12, 40, 50 mile an hour wind gusts. So hunkering down.
If that happened down here, Paul, I'm just telling you right now, there will be no milk and bread. And every single Washington County, Tennessee citizen that doesn't know how to drive would think they need to be on the road. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. So that's usually how it goes down here in the South. But anyway, hopefully you guys are staying warm up there. Everybody's staying safe, bracing for the storm. I know we were talking a little offline too. Kansas City Saturday night, the matchup between, of all people, the Dolphins coming up from wonderful Miami, Florida, into -30 wind chill, I believe. So, man, that's going to be interesting. Let's go off cuff already, Paul. What's other than the Packers Cowboys, which obviously we'll dive into. I also want to get your take on the Bears. What other matchup this weekend just kind of pops off the screen to you? I know I'm kind of eager to see CJ Stroud play his first playoff game, but is there anything that's intriguing to you other than the Packers game?
I would agree with a couple of ones that you listed so far, just to see how CJ Stroud does. Tampa Bay and Philadelphia, honestly, just to see, because obviously we know how things are trending with the Philadelphia Eagles right now. Like, could that be one of those kind of potential upsets out there? Just the way those two teams are trending at the moment. And then Miami and Kansas City. I mean, Tyreek Hill being back, and then you got Jared Goff and Matt Stafford going up against each other. Just a couple odd how that works out on some of those times. But I'm just excited for all of it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's the only time that I really get to sit in front of the big screen and watch a football game, because typically if the Packers are playing, whether it's a 12 o'clock kickoff or the 3 o'clock kickoff, I'm kind of here in front of the computer ready to cover it, take notes, chart the game, all that. So when you got a game where there's no Packer game and it's other like high quality football like that, man, it's just I get to be a fan. I'm so excited.
Exactly.
About it. So, and no stress. That's always fun to watch football with no stress. But appreciate you joining us tonight, though. Again, this is Paul Brettel from Packers Wire. Always a blast having you on here, man. The Bears game, I'm just going to give you the floor. I know I had a blast watching it, and loved seeing the defense step up for Joe Barry's sake, for Matt LaFleur's sake, and even for the players, obviously. And then just, man, Jordan Love. I don't want to steal your thunder, but just what a great way to end the season.
Yeah, no kidding. So there's two paths will go down here. One, Packers controlled the line of scrimmage, and although these teams from week 1 to week 18, both of them very, very different teams, that element was very familiar throughout week 1 and week 18. The Packers dominating the line of scrimmage. They did a really good job. I feel like the interior defensive line's been playing a lot better as of late. And after the game in the locker room, the midst of the cigar smoke and all the yelling, I was chatting with Kenny Clark and asked him, do you feel like your position group in particular is playing its best football? Because obviously at this time of the year, that's what everyone's striving for. And he feels like they are. And I feel like the on-field results we're seeing that as well. And one thing that he mentioned that I feel like is forgotten about that position group, but even lump the edge rushers in there, is the youth. Now, obviously it's not the extent of wide receiver, of tight end, but because you have guys like Clark and Gary and Smith, but you count Lucas Van Ness at edge, you have 3 rookies along the defensive front seeing significant playing time. You have 2 second-year guys in Wyatt and Enagbari seeing significant playing time. TJ Slayton's in year 3, but this is his first stepping into that starting role. And so when we talk about position groups, players starting to trend in the right direction, playing some of their best football at the right time, you look at a position group, I won't call it young, but relies heavily on younger players. And that could be something that's happening there as well, because last 2 weeks they've done a really good job of generating that interior push, help keep Justin Fields in the pocket. This Bears team was one of the best at running the football, averaging 4.6 yards per rush. Packers held them to just over 3 in that game. And I thought the edge rushers in particular had one of their best games just in terms of setting the edge. Thought they did an excellent job from start to finish. Other side of the ball, same thing from the Packers offensive line. Obviously, he's Aaron Jones. But if we look at the Carolina game and then look at the Bears game, both games Aaron Jones averaged over 5 yards per carry. Both games Aaron Jones had over 100 yards. But the running lanes that were there for him against Chicago versus Carolina, like I felt Carolina was Aaron Jones really just being Aaron Jones, making something out of nothing on some occasions. But I thought in the Bears game, Green Bay did a really good job up front of carving open some running lanes for him to take advantage of. And same thing, this has been a Bears defense that was averaging only 3.7 yards per carry, or giving up that much defensively this season. So offensive line seems to be playing some of their better football as well. With Jordan Love, obviously we've seen the on-field stuff, so I'll take in a little bit different direction. Just reflecting on the season and how it's went, he really, from who he is as a person, was really the perfect quarterback, the perfect person, mentality, how he operates to navigate and be the leader of this team. His even-keeled, seems unflappable at times when things are going bad, when things are going good. You're going to see the same guy. And for all the highs and lows that this team's had, all the chaos that was going on around him early on in the season, just kind of having this steady force at the most important position, I think was really, really valuable. And when we look at the off-field contributions that he's made to this team, Bo Melton mentioned, I think Bo Melton said in the weekly dinners for the offensive side of the ball at Love's house, and we learned that was, I think, 2 or 3.
Right.
But nonetheless, that effort. On Tuesdays, a typical off day in the NFL, getting together with the skill position group to watch film. So Love can sit there and talk through with them. Here's how I want you to do this. Here's why. Here's how you should react to this in this situation. Just those learning experiences. Wide receivers coach Jason Vrabel talking about how throughout the summer, throughout the season, that when one of the wide receivers made a mistake, a drop, ran the wrong route, it was always Jordan Love who was there to put his arm around them and say, hey, pick your head back up. I'm going to need you. I'm coming back your way. Like individually, those things might seem small, and perhaps to a degree they are, but you add that together, like guys fight for that type of teammate. The guy who's doing those extra things, especially when it's your quarterback, when it's your on the field leader. And looking back at that losing streak that they were going through, and even the other ups and downs that they had, being in that locker room, there was this unwavering confidence in Jordan Love from his teammates. And at the time, you don't know what to make of that. Is it just, well, they're not going to sit here and tell me what's going wrong, obviously. Is it coach speak? Is it player speak? But now that you get to the end, you see how things turned around. You see how it all unfolded. And you do look back and go, that was a belief. It wasn't a matter of if it was going to turn around. It was when. And maybe admittedly, nobody knew when was. But they knew that they had the right person there to help lead the way, that they would navigate through the inexperience that they had, learn as a group, learn together, grow together. And I think that's the culmination of all of that has been, again, not everything, but I think a important part, I'll say, into the turnaround that they've experienced, the momentum that they're building, and just where they are as a team right now.
Yeah. What you said about Hart and like the team wanting to play for the quarterback, because it is, there's no denying it's the most important position in the game of football. I think we would all agree. Think back to Brett. I watched that Reggie White documentary here recently, Minister of Defense, and him talking specifically like him separating Favre's shoulder the year before and Favre finishing the game drew him to come play in Green Bay, and his teammates rallied around a young Favre. Aaron, when he got there, when Aaron took over, obviously, he was holding those same type of dinners at home. They were actually doing Bible study and stuff back then. I remember John Kuhn talking about it. And it was this breath of fresh air because Brett had grown older and spending time with the family and wasn't really spending time with the guys anymore. And you see Aaron kind of drift away. And now Jordan's stepping into that role. And something special happens when you're playing for each other. And it's what Coach LaFleur's talked about time and time again, right? So, some of the best teams in the history of any sport are player-led teams. And all that made it was the Vince Lombardi quote. He said, it's essential to understand that the battles are primarily won in the hearts of men. Men respond to leadership in a most remarkable way. And once you've won his heart, he will follow you anywhere. It's just, there's something special happens. I know the path straight to a man's heart is through his stomach. And you have someone over for dinner, I know you're winning me over, first of all. But just breaking bread and having that time together, it's so important. It's what a blessing it is. Youngest team in the league, youngest team in NFL history to make the playoffs too, right? Did I understand that correctly? So, man, the sky's the limit. And immediately you think, if they don't let it go to their head, and then you go back to Love and how he's carrying himself, it's like, you got a perfect example right there of someone who's even keel, not going to get too high, not going to get too low. I'm excited about the future for sure. As far as Dallas, let's jump right into it. We did a breakdown last night, kind of deep dive in Dallas's defense and some of the tendencies. Obviously, what we came away with is they're, I think, 20th in EPA against zone run. They play a ton of man coverage, obviously, I think second most in the league. They play a large majority of middle field close, obviously single high safety looks, and that's post snap, rotation. So essentially what you come away with is cover one man, cover one drop, low cover one robber, and they're susceptible to the zone run. So that's kind of our scouting report that we came away with, like, hey, this might be the way to attack here. When you're going into this game, and it doesn't have to specifically be offense, just giving you an example there. How do you see this? What are the keys for the Packers, both on offense and defense, going in against Dallas? Because, Paul, this is a lot different than the Chicago Bears. I think we would all agree, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I agree with what you said from the Packers' perspective on offense in terms of what to look for. And that's kind of going to be the center of at least that side of the ball. I think running the ball is going to be huge. We all know the importance of it, but the Dallas defense, like overall, against the run this season in a couple key categories, they're hovering around average. But in their 5 losses, I saw this tweet, and I apologize, I can't remember who put it out there. But in their 5 losses, in 3 of them, they've given up at least 150 rushing yards, over 200 in 2 of those. In the 4th loss, they gave up 109. Like, that's been the formula for other opponents of Dallas to be able to come away with the win. And you can see why in that regard. I mean, look at their defensive front. It's Micah Parsons who they'll move around. Matt LaFleur has been very complimentary of obviously Parsons, but everyone else that they have on that front as well, that it's not just Parsons that you got to worry about trying to limit or take out of the game. And having that run game element can at least help negate the pass rush's ability a little bit. I asked Elton Jenkins about this. I think it was after the Kansas City game, just from his perspective as an offense lineman. When you got the run game going, what does that do for you, in the passing game? And he says it gives them a bit of an advantage because there is that slight hesitation from the pass rusher when it's 2nd and 3 and you could run the ball, you could pass the ball, you do play action. Like, it's not just pin your ears back, go from point A to point B to get after the quarterback. And we all know in the game of football, that split second, like that's all that it takes for, in the passing game for a window to open, in the run game for a blocker to get the upper hand from a positioning standpoint. So having that element going for the Packers is going to be really important. And Jordan Love has talked about how then it opens up opportunities in the passing game as well. You utilize play action, where the Packers have been really, really efficient, really, really effective this season. And against that cover one defense that Dallas utilizes. And it was early on in the year, but Christian Watson, I forget what opponent they were talking about, but he was talking about how they play a lot of man, and their receivers have found a lot of success against man. So if this Packers offensive line can get the run game going, can give Jordan Love some time in the pocket, I think there's going to be the opportunity there for the Packers receivers to win those one-on-one matchups, because this Cowboys secondary is very, very aggressive. They're ball hawking. They will attack the football, and obviously something that you have to be mindful of. But as we saw last year in the passing game, because that Dallas game, and I understand, completely different year, different players, all that stuff, but that was when Christian Watson had his breakout game.
Yep.
It was also the game where A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones combined for, I think, like 37 carries, 210 rushing yards. So,
was it really? I didn't remember that.
It was a big time running game for Green Bay. So I think you're going to kind of see that similar, or at least looking ahead, that feels like that could be kind of a similar path to success for them. And also when you're able to run the ball, you're able to control the clock. You're able to control time of possession. You're able to limit the number of opportunities the Cowboys offense has, who's averaged almost 30 points per game this season, leading the NFL. So on the defensive side of the ball, I think that's where it starts. You got to get after Dak Prescott. And we talked about the interior defensive line playing some of their better football. The pass rush has been more effective at getting home in the past few weeks. Like, they are absolutely going to have to continue that trend, because if they're unable to get after the quarterback and Dak Prescott has time back there, I mean, CeeDee Lamb is, it's about as tough as they come to have to cover for 3-4 seconds at a time consistently over and over and over again. So for me, that's where it starts on the defensive side of the ball. And then if you can get after Dak, hopefully it can lead to a turnover opportunity that this defense is going to have to capitalize on. Because it feels like, with how just efficient, effective this Cowboys offense has been, there's going to have to be some element where the Packers find success in the ground game, so they just limit the number of possessions in the game just to keep it, somewhat lower scoring. Or they're able to generate a takeaway or two and maybe get a score or two off of it to, put themselves in an advantageous situation. So looking at it, those are kind of right now my key elements, key aspects to this game for the Packers.
Got it. Love it. You mentioned, the cover one man we just talked about. I pulled a statistic here. According to SIS, this is receiver rating for the Packers, just the Packers roster. And I sorted it and removed all zone coverage. So versus man, if this is correct, according to SIS, the leading receiver rating, which is essentially passer rating when targeting this receiver, which obviously would have been Jordan Love all year, with the exception of one beautifully thrown ball by Sean Clifford there later in the season. But Romeo Doubs leads the way at 114.5, and second is Aaron Jones. So I think, when you talk about the running game possibly having a big game, or at least that kind of being the game plan going in, look for those angle routes too. Look for a little screen game, which, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but do you feel like we haven't used the screen pass much this year? It just seems like I can't think of very many occasions where it's like, yeah, man, the screen. I'm talking about tailback screen, obviously the T screen. Obviously we use some smoke screens, tight end screens, things like that. But is it just me, or have we been kind of laying back on the halfback screen this year?
I would agree with that, and I imagine it has to do with a lot of just Aaron Jones' availability not being there. I think that's going to be more of a play design for him than A.J. Dillon or any of the other backs. So I agree with you, and I would probably attribute it just to the injuries and that he's worked through, and just not obviously being on the field for the entire season. And one other path I want to go down, because we were talking about Micah Parsons and just the pressure that he can generate. By PFF's numbers, he's leading the NFL in pressures, 103 for the regular season. But Jordan Love has been really, really good. I know Micah Parsons can be a different beast, but really, really good under pressure. And I wrote about this over at Packers Wire, as it was after week 12 when the offensive position coaches, after that Lions win, the offensive position coaches were talking, and that's when Tom Clements started talking about where's Jordan Love improved the most. And he talked about his decision-making when under pressure and referenced that 22-yard check down past A.J. Dillon in the Lions game that he ran for 22 yards. I think he hurdled someone on that play. And Tom Clements was talking through. He goes, that was a play that was designed to go downfield. Because the pressure got through, the opportunity wasn't there for that play to develop. So Jordan Love, with the pressure in his face, took the check down. And it seems in the moment, and even describing it, like a simple thing to do, a simple thing to execute on. But when Clements was asked where he's improved the most, it was his decision-making and knowing where to go with the football in that situation, because that was something he struggled with early on. In the article I referenced, I think through the first 8 weeks of the season, Jordan Love was completing around 41% of his passes when under pressure. Since week 14, it's been at, I believe, 61%, and that's the sixth best rate in football during that span. Doesn't have any interceptions. And just look back at that Vikings game and that Bears game in particular to end the season. Like, this is a quarterback right now who's in just complete control. Doesn't matter what's going on around him. Doesn't matter if a blitzer comes through. He knows exactly where to go with the football in those instances. His ability with Josh Myers as well in their communication pre-snap to get everyone set with the original protection adjustment, that Myers is calling out to blockers based on the personnel, defensive alignment that the defense is in. And then Jordan Love's ability to make protection adjustments based, his hard count's gotten a lot better. Just the late movement that the defense does. Like, they've been really, really good in that area. And the trickle down of that is someone who just absolutely knows where to go with the ball. If the pressure is going to come through, it feels like Love absolutely knows it's going to come from this gap. And if it does, I'm going this way with it. Like, just in complete control. And so I wrote about that. I reference it here because, again, just who they're going up against, that Cowboys pass rush, Micah Parsons, like, his ability to handle that and handle it effectively is probably, especially at times, going to be a key part of this game in terms of how the Packers fare offensively.
Yeah, it makes sense. You point out the A.J. Dillon completion there. It's totally different too. Like, on that specific play, it sounds like it was a read it out play where you're literally going 1, 2, 3, check down. But in that case, it was probably 1 pressure, check down. That's huge. It's absolutely huge. It's taking what the defense gives you to the next level. That's awesome. Tom Clements, man, what a godsend. What a godsend that man is. Just, he's become the new quarterback whisperer for sure. I know you mentioned Micah Parsons. We'll let you go here. I know you got a lot to get to, but I actually pulled the pressures earlier, minimum 40 pressures. And you're right. Micah Parsons leading the league at 20.6%. That's just absolutely wild. 20% of the time he's getting pressure on the quarterback. To put that into perspective, gang, Rashawn Gary, 16.3%. I think we'd all agree he's our best pass rusher, right? So out there just doing miraculous things. Even, I mean, when you look at Aiden Hutchinson, always having, TJ Watt, another one, 17.7%. He's, almost 3% higher than TJ Watt. Micah Parsons just built different. I didn't want to be the one to say this is Lawrence Taylor 2.0, but it kind of feels like Lawrence Taylor 2.0, doesn't it?
And they'll move him literally everywhere along that defensive front, wherever they feel they can get the best matchup, wherever they feel they can get the one-on-one matchup. So when it comes to Micah Parsons, this isn't just Rasheed Walker, Zach Tom, and the tight ends trying to figure this out. Like, we'll see him at linebacker. We're going to see him lined up over the interior offensive line. Like, it's going to take everyone on this Packers front to be able to contain him.
Yeah, absolutely wild. I'm going to let you go. I got one more question, Paul. I swear I look forward to this conversation every single week. The big news today, Bill Belichick. The thought of Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, both looking for jobs is just, it's such a 2024 thing, isn't it? Just wow. What's your take on that? Just real quick.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier today. Just the coaches that are available. Like, I would even, obviously not in like Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick territory, right, but like even like Mike Vrabel being out there as an option for teams. The Pete Carroll one, I think, like many, probably surprised us the most, just because that one seemed to really come out of nowhere. Where Belichick, there was some speculation, but end of some eras. I guess it all has to come to an end at some point, right? But you just with them, you kind of never knew when it was going to be, and then you throw in Nick Saban at Alabama, stepping away and retiring as well, and it's baffling. Like I said, I think you just kind of put it as the end of some eras, like some really, really long tenured coaches. And I might get this number wrong, but I think I saw someone say Matt LaFleur is like now the 8th longest tenured head coach in football. Or
is he really?
It was something like that. Don't quote me on the 8, but it was somewhere like around the top 10 mark, which is insane to think about.
It really is. It really is. One question here from Packer Up in the chat. Thank you, buddy. He said, Clayton, any news on Romeo? I meant to ask you when I showed the man coverage stat. I know they had briefly mentioned earlier, it sounded like Romeo was a little guarded in his words. I don't want to put you in an awkward spot either, Paul. But do you have any kind of update on that? Maybe any, I don't know, guess, I guess you could say?
No, I don't have any sort of insight. Yeah, Romeo wasn't going to share what the specific injury was. All we know right now is that it's day to day. Matt LaFleur said that during the game last week, he did have to go to the hospital from the injury that he had, and he was back in the locker room by the time the game had ended. But so I think the fact that he was out there is obviously a good sign, because you just kind of hear that coming off the game and you're not really sure what to expect. But yeah, that's about as much as we have right now. So him, Christian Watson up in the air at this time. Christian Watson mentioned that going into last week's game, they were trying to ramp him up. And in terms of his acceleration, getting to the speed that he wanted to, I believe was his verbiage that he used. He just never quite hit that point that the trainers and the medical staff felt comfortable with in terms of giving him the green light against Chicago. And he even referenced this week that when he came back from the first hamstring injury, I think against Detroit and Las Vegas during that stretch, that he was never quite 100% at that time either. So he's taking it day by day. Likes to think that the opportunity is there for him to get out there, but I think it's just going to be how he responds from these practices. And like we talked about earlier, going against that man coverage, like if you can have that speed element out there, even if it's for 50% of the snaps or whatever it ends up being, like that's really, really valuable in creating the spacing, creating opportunities for others, even if the ball doesn't go in his direction.
Yeah, I'll tell you this: you haven't been on the injury list all year long. You've been with us, it seems like, every week, and I can't thank you enough. It's been an absolute blast, Paul. Let's keep this thing going, man. Let's keep it going, right? Let's go upset them. So, again, that's Paul Brettel from Packers Wire. Can't thank you enough, buddy. Look forward to it next week. Hopefully you're available, and we will hound you until you agree to come on. So thank you so much, bud. We appreciate you.
Appreciate it, Clayton. Take care.
Yeah, see you. Now we bring in Tim from Green Bay, bracing himself for the snowstorm about to blow through. Paul was awesome, dude, man. I love talking ball with that guy. Wanted to get his take on the Romeo Doubs thing. I was thinking about asking. I thought Romeo was pretty guarded in his words. Let's not ask. Packer up in the chat said, hey, ask about Romeo. We asked about Romeo, and he said, I'm going to be guarded on my words too. I don't blame him one bit. So no one really knows. It sounds to me like he probably, like Ron said, I think there's a good chance he'll go. But I guarantee you, Coach LaFleur and that PR team met with Romeo and said, hey, let's just not even talk about it, okay? But, Tim, how you doing tonight, bub?
Doing good, man. Getting all ready. I caught the last few minutes of Paul's segment and already have like a half a page of notes. I love it. Just even a couple of minutes, you're going to get some insight, and it's always great having Paul on the show.
Yeah. If you really learn how to focus on – sometimes it's not what people say, but how they say it too. And there's been a couple of times this year that I'm like, okay, he didn't go too in depth on that. But if you really paid attention to how he said it, a week or two later, I go, that makes sense now. He's the man. He's the best. So let's do this, man. I've been kind of looking around here in the chat a bit. Just want to say thanks to everybody. We got a ton of people in here. Hit that like button for us so we can boost the algorithm and help other Packer fans find this channel, find this podcast. We appreciate y'all hanging with us tonight for sure. Like Jim said, Romeo's out there running around, which is a good sign. I agree. If it was anything too serious too, I don't think he would have came. He would have been in the locker room by the post game show, right? So,
and the fact that he's been limited this week is good. He's not a DNP. He's limited. He's out there moving. It's a good sign, and that's what you want to see. If it's a day-to-day thing, it's a day-to-day thing. And if they don't want to get into specifics, then we got to respect that. You also got to remember we're going into a hostile environment here, playoff football. You don't want to give a team that you haven't seen at all this year any kind of intel as far as personnel or anything anyway. So for all we know, Rome could be feeling great.
Right,
so
could be. And we need him, man. He's great against man coverage this year, that's for sure. Rob Domofsky actually tweeted out, I said the bad word. I know people are mad at Rob. Everybody calm down. Okay, everything's going to be okay. We're all going to get along. It is funny, though. I gotta share something with you here. I was listening just now. Let me put this down. We'll get in the injury details. Obviously, everybody was upset with Rob Domofsky's comments on Jair Alexander earlier today. I try not to get into all that, right? And
I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Rob Domofsky's not a Packer fan.
It's almost as if he's just covering the team.
Yeah.
Here's the deal, though. Here's what I cracked up about. I was just watching Cheesehead TV, and I seen a clip come across Twitter of Aaron Negler and Corey Banke. And Aaron Negler's kind of going to bat for Rob Domofsky, like, guys, it ain't a big deal, right? And then lo and behold, Corey Banke kind of climbs into it, and he makes it sound like it's not a big deal. And then he just takes an absolute shot at Matt Schneidman and said, if we need to be mad at anyone, I'm paraphrasing, we need to be mad at Matt Schneidman for his setup when he goes on his radio show. He said he looks like he's in a prison cell. And I was just like, why is everybody so angry at each other today? We're in the damn playoffs. Like, what are we doing here? So, Negler's, the fans are mad at, let me give everybody an update. I need to put it on the ticker. The fans are mad at Rob Domofsky. Aaron Nagler's mad at the fans, and Corey Banky's mad at Matt Schneidman. So
Corey Banky's mad at Matt Schneidman's background.
we need to create the Packer fans / podcasters pissed off power rankings. That's what we need. We need to kind of judge it every week. But I don't know. I was just cracking up, man, listening to that whole exchange.
I love all of it, even the stuff I can't stand. I love it.
Why not? Right? It's going to be over soon, and it's going to suck. We're going to be sitting here going, "What's on TV? Tennis." Oh, God. You know what I mean? It's going to be horrible.
We flipping through the history books, man, reliving the glory days pretty soon.
Anyway, let's get to the injury report. Rob Domofsky, the man of the hour, tweeted out, Packers wide receiver Romeo Doubs didn't want to discuss specifics of his chest injury that required a hospital visit during Sunday's game. He said he's, quote, feeling normal. He was a limited participant in today's practice. And then a tweet before that, Matt LaFleur said Jair Alexander had, quote, kind of a freak deal yesterday, stepped on someone's foot and rolled an ankle. Yesterday was a jog through. LaFleur said he's considered day-to-day, and they thought it was best if he didn't go today. So that's why he popped up on the injury report. We now have the details on that. Jair Alexander did not participate today because of an ankle injury. Also who didn't participate was A.J. Dillon with the thumb/neck, okay? We had Elton Jenkins with the knee/ankle, which he was limited yesterday. I don't think he had a setback. We do this every week with Elton Jenkins. I feel comfortable saying that's a part of the plan. Limited, have him sit, rest up, and then get him ready for the game on Sunday. That would be my best guess. I don't have any kind of inside information, but that's just kind of what it feels like. Now, as far as the limited participation today, real quick, Romeo Doubs obviously with the chest. Aaron Jones with the knee/finger. I'm pretty sure we all agree he'll be good to go. Isaiah McDuffie limited again, so we may get him back into the fold. Jonathan Owens limited. I'm sure he's good to go. TJ Slayton limited. Preston Smith limited, which was huge last week. Preston played, so I don't think there's anything to worry about there. And then Christian Watson limited. I think we would all agree it's kind of a crapshoot with that hamstring. We don't know how it's going to act right now. The fact that they're playing indoors, that might give them a little more confidence, right? Into okay. We can trust them to go there, but we'll see how that plays out. Now on Dallas's side, limited again, or actually it was did not participate yesterday was Stephon Gilmore. Today he was limited, so they're trying to get him ready to go. Also limited was Jonathan Hankins, and then did not participate was Zach Martin, a guard, and that was just NIR rest, so he's good to go there, obviously. So Tim, anything you want to add there to the injury report? Anything stick out to you? I'm thinking Romeo Doubs probably going to go, man.
Yeah, like if we want to go full on speculation mode, I would think that. I mean, it's do or die, man. It's win or go home. It's the playoffs. I mean, Rome's one of those guys that's I don't know how to say this without sounding insulting, but he's tougher than he looks. He's a pretty mild-mannered, calm kind of dude. But it's like there's a grittiness to his game. We talk about him, being good in man coverage and, the way that he is with contested catch, passes and things like that. He's coming down with the ball. He's a physical receiver when he wants to be. So I think Rome's tough. I think he's cut from that cloth. And I got to believe he's going to go. That may be why he's limited right now. And as far as Jair, I mean, what can you do? That kind of crap happens. Yeah. Hopefully he didn't, hopefully he didn't like trip over Rob Domofsky or something while he was walking out, or,
that might be why everybody's mad. Yeah.
Or stepped on somebody's stupid phone charger cord or something, like you never know, like the craziest things. And that'll be just our luck, right? A freak little NFI, it's not even football related on a walkthrough day. It's like, oh God. But
there's gonna be a picture surface of Rob Domofsky tripping Jair Alexander, and then we're all going to know now why everybody's so angry. But Brandy Lewis in the chat, good to see you in here, Brandy. She said Dobbs in his presser said ask LaFleur, laughing emoji. So that's the proper answer right there for sure. John Walker in the chat said to Clayton and the gang, social media is not very sociable these days. I want to compliment you guys on a great podcast, fun, informative, and nice people. I look forward to each episode. Hey, we appreciate you, John. We look forward to you being in here, buddy. We try to keep things lighthearted in here and have fun. I want people to walk away from this podcast going, I'm in a better mood now. rather than, God, I can't stand those guys.
Yeah. Don't take it too seriously, right? We're here having fun, right?
That's it. And speaking of having fun, let's dive into it, man. Let's talk some Cowboys personnel. Obviously, we did their defensive kind of deep dive, right? Now we're going to focus on their offense. So I think we got plenty of time to do it. Let's get into it, Tim. First of all, personnel groups, okay? They're in 11 personnel 61% of the time. That's 22nd highest in the league. Their EPA when working out of 11 is second in the league. So they're doing the large majority of their damage in 11 personnel from an EPA standpoint, okay? It's expected points allowed. So, or I'm sorry, expected points, what is it, added? I've got my note here just to make sure I always screw it up. Expected points added according to SIS. So from a grading out standpoint, they seem to be more comfortable and more successful out of 11 personnel that they run 61% of the time. 21 personnel, they're in that 5% of the time. That's 13th highest in the league, and their EPA is 12th. So borderline top 10, right there hovering around top 10. And then in 12 personnel, 15% of the time, that ranks 23rd in the league, and their EPA is 11. So even though they're so successful out of 11 personnel, which is one running back, one tight end. Obviously, a 3 wide receiver set will trigger our nickel defense. With that being said, they still want to try to stay committed to that 21 and 12, right, and get those base looks as well. I'm sure they go empty quite often in that too. We all know in the offseason, one of the big topics, one of the big moves was Kellen Moore getting let go by Dallas. Obviously, the Chargers picked him up. That didn't go as planned. I know many people were trying to say Big Mike doesn't know what he's doing down there, and without Kellen Moore, he's nothing. They let Kellen Moore go, and the team that Kellen Moore goes to doesn't even make the playoffs, and here Mike is with an MVP candidate quarterback once again. So I think we could put that to bed, honestly. But his reason for that was, listen, I've been in Kellen Moore's shoes. He's a coordinator. He wants to put up points. When you put up points, that gets you a head coaching job. I'm the head coach, and it's my job to win the game. And sometimes it's better to lean on the run to give your defense a break, right? So you're seeing that this year, in my opinion. That's why you're seeing that 21 and 12, even though they're having so much success out of 11 personnel. So that's kind of how that sits. Obviously, you see the heat chart here as far as the efficiency on offense. We won't go through all those numbers, but everything is, borderline red and dark orange. They're just solid all the way across the board. I mean, when you look overall, second ranked, early down, this is EPA per play, by the way. Early down, they're 7th. Late down, they're 2nd. Red zone, they're 11th. Midfield, they're 2nd. I mean, they're just top 10, no matter where they're at on the field, no matter what the situation. Big Coach Mike McCarthy got these boys humming down there, Tim. What do you think about the numbers there? Anything you want to add to that?
I think when we look at this, that we're going to see a variance in their personnel groups, just because it's, the unfamiliarity of these two. We haven't really seen each other. Both sides of the spectrum here. You've had Packers make comments about just not really seeing a lot of film yet, and that they're just getting to that. Same thing with McCarthy had mentioned that earlier, that he's hasn't really seen a lot of this year's Packers team. So I think you're going to see an effort to kind of skew that. You want to, what you've put on tape this year, and what these metrics say. So I would look at Dallas probably switching things up a little bit, but I still think these percentages and these personnel groups are going to be within, a few points of each other. We may not see them in 11 personnel 61% of the time, but probably half the game, I would think. And I think, this is going to be a test for our nickel D. We've got to be on point come Sunday for sure.
Yeah, definitely. We got Pack Daddy Ryan Slip in the house said power ranking is actually a really good idea. Talking about
I agree.
the pissed off Packer fan / podcaster power ranking.
Complete with hot button topics that should not be discussed.
And when you get into the ranting too, right? Ryan's going to be in the top 3 every week. I'm just going to go ahead and give y'all a spoiler. Right? when he gets on his rants, the guys and gals
After Dark literally is the qualifier. He's already there.
I imagine when he does his regular podcasts in the morning, Ryan's just kind of hanging out, right? He's just chilling. He's got a cup of coffee. He's just, whatever. He's just hanging out, relaxed. And when he does Packernet After Dark, I imagine he's there with all of a sudden he's grown out like a 2-day beard and he's smoking a cigarette. And it's just like, he's just like, what else do you got to add to the fight?
And then the other half, he's just sitting there like, oh, God.
Right.
Oh, my
When
head.
is he going to stop talking? I love it. Good to see you in there, Ryan. Appreciate you, buddy. Paul Robertson says Ferguson, Cooks, Lamb are their main targets in the passing game. Ever since they started getting Lamb the ball more, their offense has prospered. Stop Lamb, and they will sputter. Hey, if you're telling me you know a way to stop Lamb, sign me up, brother, man. Now the question is, how do we do it, right, Paul? It's going to be tough, man, because do we want to do what we tried to do and gave up the explosive plays there, letting Ja follow Lamb around, especially now that Jair's battling a sore ankle? We don't know how serious it is. Do we go back to kind of our traditional style defense, which I think many people are still under the impression that we're just sitting in quarters and cover 3 all the time. And it's just not the case. I mean, I need to pull that updated information up. I may try to do that by the end of the show. I'd like to see where we rank in man coverage this year, because I'd be really surprised if we're in the bottom 5. We're probably right there in the middle of the pack somewhere, I would imagine. But, yeah, what do you think, Tim? Outside of Lamb, I mean, here we are. We said we were going to talk about, we're going to talk about their offense, right? I thought we were off topic here. Let me pull it up real quick. Let's go to our base defense against their 12 personnel, right? Let's just jump to 11. We'll come back to base. When we look at their receiving core, it's pretty much just Lamb, man. You know, you got Cooks a 69.6. You got Gallup a 61.5. I can't believe he's still in the league. I feel like that guy's 112 years old. CD Lamb, 91.1, the third highest graded receiver in the league. Like you said, Ferguson playing tight end, 71.9. It's going to come down to stopping Lamb and Ferguson. I put it this way. We're okay with the other 2 guys beating us, but let's don't go out there and just ignore Lamb. But what do you think, Tim? CD Lamb, pretty good year he's put together, man.
Yeah, and that's clearly your number one. That's, if you're gonna follow someone or put someone hot, that's the one you're gonna be concerned with. But we talk about that like with our personnel too. Sometimes other guys can eat just based off of the attention that a guy like CeeDee Lamb's going to draw. And, even if you take him out of a game, so to speak, kind of like we did with Justin Jefferson in Minnesota, we really limited him in that game. But it opens up lanes in other areas. And, Big Mike's going to call a game. We're not unfamiliar with Mike McCarthy. So we're going to get the full gamut here of the Dallas offense. And, regardless of what you do, CeeDee Lamb's going to get his touches and he's going to get his yak yards and, all those things. So I really think we have to lean on what got us here, which is mixing it up and staying within that quarters concept, but also not being afraid to mix in some man. And I think what was crucial against the Bears was just the willingness of Joe Barry to just dial up the blitzes and to dial up different blitzes, right. Sending Quay, mugging A gap, B gap, sending him off the edge, then pulling him back, dropping him back into coverage, things like that, mix it up. I'd like to see a little big nickel in this game. I'd like to see maybe even nickel pressure, nickel blitz. Get creative because, you're going to have a lot of unscouted looks just because these teams aren't super familiar with each other. So why not steer into that, lean into that, and try and mix it up? But I think you're going to lean on the principles that got you here this far, and just be willing to adapt. And as of late, this defense and led by Joe Barry has been making those changes. We were really, really upset earlier in the season when there was just the adjustments weren't coming, or they were coming, they were too little, too late. You're making a second half adjustment with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It's not going to help you. So we haven't seen that as of late. This 3-game win streak that we're on right now. Guys have had a good game plan. They've bought in and they've been willing to adjust. And that's going to be crucial against Dallas.
Yeah, these numbers are right around where I expected them. Man coverage, we've ran 23% of the time. That's 21st in the league. So just a few spots there below the halfway mark. Obviously not in the bottom quarter there. So running a lot of man coverage, comparatively speaking, to previous years. Now, the big thing is, everybody talks about shell coverage, playing quarters, all that. We're actually playing middle field close, 6th most in the league. we're in middle field closed 52% of the time. And for those of you listening, what that means is cover 3 or cover 1 man that we're in essentially 52% of the time. So we're not even playing shell. We're not playing those traditional quarters. I notice it when we get in the red zone, and Hart, that's when we, some of our best numbers are in the red zone. But, the EPA versus man, not too bad there as well. Another thing, too, that I was just looking at that kind of caught me off guard. Didn't really catch me off guard. I think it would catch most people off guard. Talking about dialing up the blitz. We've actually brung 5 rushers 27% of the time. That's 5th most in the league. And when you bring 6+ rushers, we've only done it 29th ranked. That's 3% of the time. The EPA goes up a bit, but the EPA for 5 rushers is 27th in the league. So you got to be kind of careful with that.
I like that we do that, though. Yeah, every once in a while, you just throw the kitchen sink at them.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to keep them
on their toes. And man, that's you talk about trust in your secondary, man. You start getting up there, bringing 6 or more. You really got to trust your corners and your safeties for sure.
Yeah. As far as 3 rushers, people have lost their mind when we've dropped those 8 guys into coverage this year. We've done it 6% of the time. That's 9th most in the league. So there are 8 other teams that drop 8 into coverage more often than us. But our EPA, when we do that, is better than everything other than 6+ rushers. Our EPA is 11th in the league when we do that. Now, some of that you got to take with a grain of salt because obviously you got to take into consideration the down and distances you're probably faced when you're only dropping 8. It's probably a 3rd and long. I know people hate to see it. Why are we playing so soft? Let's go after them. But it seems to have worked when they've done that this year. I'm sure all of us, myself included, only remember the bad plays, right? Where you go, damn it, that never works. It's because that one's fresh on your mind, right? So anyway, pretty cool looking at those numbers. Let's see. Omer said, not allowing points let you keep your job there, Joe Barry. Just don't let them in the end zone and you can come back next week. That's basically what he's saying. Doug in the chat says, Clayton, with Kraft and Musgrave at full health, how much do you think we'll run 12 personnel and where on the field? Doug, I would love to give you an educated answer, but I don't know, man. When we kind of looked at it, I kind of felt like if they're going to go to dime, which they play dime almost as much as anybody in the league, I think 2nd most in the league, they're going dime against 11 personnel. So when you go 12, they're probably going to go big nickel. So I would rather us stay in 11 personnel, keep them in their dime, and let's run against that dime defense. Now, if they change up and say, okay, we can't stop the run, we need a safety in there to fit that box, let's bring in big nickel, let's put an extra linebacker in there for the run fit, then maybe you change things up with some play action. But on the surface, I'm more along the lines of 11 personnel. I'm as excited about the combination of Musgrave and Kraft, more excited than anyone. But it just, when I've turned on the tape this year, I feel like we have the most success out of 11 personnel. Maybe it's just the plays that I'm breaking down because I'm really keying in on the scoring drives, the explosive plays, the crucial 3rd down stops, all those things. Maybe that's kind of skewing my view a little bit, but I'm a big 11 personnel fan because you can still run out of it. And, it's easier to run against nickel than it is base. And in this case, they're trotting dime out there that explains everything that Paul Brettel was talking about just a second ago, where it's a little bit easier to run on Dallas than other teams, right? And the teams that had success with them against them, they've ran the ball against them. I think they're recognizing the same thing. Hey, they're watching the tape and going, look, when we go nickel, they go dime, or when we go 11, they go dime. Let's just run it down their throat and run them out of that. So hopefully that answers your question, buddy. I wish I had a magic answer there, but I don't. Kellen Moore, Drew D says Kellen Moore is actually the BetUS favorite for head coach for the Carolina Panthers. That's interesting. Very interesting. Sometimes people do better when they're head coach, right? As opposed to a coordinator. We had that discussion about Mike Vrabel last night. And
sometimes it's the other way around.
Sometimes you're like Josh McDaniels and you go, man, I win Super Bowls with Bill Belichick, but then I go be a head coach twice and I get my rear end handed to me. So, really, it's just everybody's different. I know it's not a fun answer. It's not a shocking answer, but the game is it's such a game of inches. It's like some of these games. I mean, look at the Detroit game, Detroit-Dallas, right? Like it just takes one bad call by the official and that outcome completely changes. And, all I could think about that whole time was how how Detroit went right down the field on that Dallas defense. And all I can hear was all those fans going, "We want Al Harris. We want Al Harris." Kind of comes right back around to that conversation we're having. Like maybe he would make a DC. But Dallas.
Speaking of the officials, get ready for Sunday, boys and girls. We got.
What are
Ron
you trying to say, Tim? What are you trying to say right now?
We got Ron Tolbert, man, and his guys. So
Ronnie's a good official.
You can't say that with a straight face. Look, you can't say that with a straight face.
Hey, but at least we'll get
there are some crews and some head officials. I'll just say it like this: they love being on TV.
Yes,
they love walking out to the field, facing the camera, and doing their Vogue or whatever, doing the thing. That they love it. And yeah, I'll say it. Ron Tolbert's one of those guys for sure. So
you're not convinced that we're not going to get a fair shake down there in Jerry World?
No, I think this will, if anything, this will be one of those. Each side will get equally screwed probably in this game. So that would be the one glimmer of hope that at least it'll be even across the board. It's all you can ask for, right? But I don't think we're going to see the type of game we saw last week against Chicago, where we had no penalties through 85% of that game. I don't see that happening Sunday. So get your popcorn ready. It's going to be interesting.
Get your popcorn ready to throw across the room, basically.
Exactly.
Let's do a quick breakdown here. Our base defense against their 12 personnel. Okay, keep in mind they may run 21 personnel too. This is just strictly showing 12 personnel. So let's start on the front. You got Smith at left tackle, the fourth highest graded left tackle, or tackle, I should say, in the game, 83.8, strong, stout. Smith at left guard, 72.9. He's the 10th highest graded guard. You've got Biadio. How do you say that name, Tim? Can you read it? Because I can't.
Let me take. Oh yeah,
it doesn't matter. It starts with a B, but their center, he's the 14th highest graded center in the game at 68.6. You've got Zach Martin there at 69.8. Of course, we talked about he's on the injury report, but it's NIR, so he'll probably be back, I'm sure. It's just kind of a veteran rest. 17th highest graded guard, so they're pretty stout all the way across the board, other than right tackle, where they've got Steele listed at 50.8. He's 75 of 84 tackles. So
Rashawn Gary should eat, huh?
Rashawn Gary might get to eat a little bit this week. We'll see.
Wonder if he'll get held all day like he did last week.
I don't know.
More than likely it'll happen.
Yeah. God, don't get me started, Tim. Don't get me started.
So hey, that's just a respect thing, though. Like, I mean, what else can you do if you're going up against a guy like that?
Right.
Sometimes that's all you can do is hold them.
And they coach that too. Everyone in the league coaches. If you're getting beat that bad, we would rather you get a penalty than get our quarterback killed. We don't need one of those watch out blocks, right? You know what I'm talking about too, where the quarterback just hears a lineman scream, watch out. That's not what you're looking for. Okay. We'd rather you hold. We'll take the penalty. But with that being said, man, the only matchup that really favors us when we go across our defensive front, Preston Smith, if they line up like this, we know we like to move them around a bit. But Preston Smith, 73.9. Listen, he's having a good year for Preston Smith, in my opinion. Kenny Clark, 68.8. TJ Slayton, 65.1. You got Devontae Wyatt, 62.3. And Rashawn Gary, 80.0. He is the 24th highest graded edge defender in the league. When you look at pressures this year, also minimum of 40 pressures, he's 13th in the league at 16.3%, right behind Nick Bosa. Bradley Chubb just a couple spots higher. He's in good company there. So obviously he had a great first half. He struggled here lately. No better game to crank it back up than against Dallas in the playoffs for sure. So that's how your defensive front kind of shakes up. So let's go to the inside linebacker position. Quay Walker is now a 61.2. Devondre Campbell is 65.3. So really what you've got there, guys, if we're being completely honest, Quay's playing like a bottom of the league number 2 inside linebacker, and Devondre's playing like a mid-level number 2 linebacker. So you haven't got great play out of the linebacker position, but we got to mention last week, one of Quay, if not his highest grade, I think it was I don't think it was his highest this year, one of his highest graded games last week. So let's hope he continues to build off of that. Let's hope Devondre Campbell continues to get healthier. I felt like last week he looked better than he has ever since he, hurt the other ankle this year. So that's how that shakes up. Ferguson at tight end, 71.9. And then you got Schoonmaker, I think is how you say it, 50.4. So obviously Ferguson's going to get some looks there. Dak Prescott, second highest grade quarterback in the league at a 90.8. And then you got Tony Pollard, who is an absolute weapon back there at a 76.6. So the best of my knowledge, he's completely healthy. When we go to the DB room here, let's replace one of the tight ends with a wide receiver, bring in Gallup there on the outside. We kind of talked about it. They like to play CeeDee Lamb all over the place. They really like him in the slot. Keyshawn Nixon, 59.8. Obviously, that's a matchup nightmare for the Packers if you're playing man coverage. Got to keep that in mind in this situation, this specific scenario. And then at the safety position, Darnell Savage is now up to 66.3. I've ragged on Savage not to say anything personal, anything like that, but just pointing out the fact that, hey, look, he continues to underperform. But look, he's playing better than any other safety in the room this year, So you can't rag on him too much, right? He's grading out 53rd in the league at the safety position out of 99 right now. Jonathan Owens, 61.9. He's 68th in the league right now. So essentially, when you look at it from a two safety starting top 64 standpoint, Savage is playing like a mid-level number 2 safety, and Jonathan Owens has played like basically a third string safety. So there's no easier way to, or no better way to put it, according to PFF. Now, in the DB room, in the corners, I should say, Jair Alexander, if he is good to go, he's now up to 68.2. He's grading out as the 51st best corner in the league. Like I said, Keyshawn Nixon, 59.8, 83rd in the league. And then Carrington Valentine, 7th-round pick there, rookie, 57.5, 94th in the league. So still plenty of stuff you need to do in the offseason at the cornerback room, especially seeing that when Stokes was healthy, he came back and Stokes just did not look the same, right? And then they put him right back on IR. So Stokes is going to have to show me before I say, hey, look, I'm tired of talking about him like he's a first-round pick. I'm not trying to dog on him, but even before he got hurt last year, he's grading out in the 50s. We all gave the benefit of the doubt, kind of like, listen, the whole defense was playing bad. Maybe it was just that. And then lo and behold, injury, comes back from injury, Duke, and then back on the injury report, or on the IR. So just got to kind of take a step back and take a look at how everything plays out there. You can see why this offense is so good, Tim. They protect well up front. Dak Prescott's playing some of, if not his best ball of his career. CeeDee Lamb, same thing. Tony Pollard, still a weapon back there. And Ferguson kind of stepping into that tight end row, borderline, creeping up on a top 10 grade there as well. But what do you think, man, as we get ready to wrap this thing up?
Not a lot of holes on that offense. Really, right tackle, obviously we talked about that. And then, Gallup is not the player that he was. It is what it is. But, I mean, you can't write a guy like that off either. He can be a threat at any time. I guess the thing that, looking at this right here that really just is glaringly obvious is it's a legit concern if they're going to line CeeDee Lamb up in the slot with any kind of regularity, which I would assume they will mix it up. For lack of a better question, what the hell do we do? Because I don't. As good as Keyshawn's been playing as of late, I do feel like this is not a knock on Keyshawn in the slot at all. We've been very open about our thoughts on him all year, going back to training camp, as far as him being, a serviceable slot corner. I think he's been playing his best ball lately in the slot, but I don't know. Is that good enough against CeeDee Lamb? And are we gonna see a scenario where we are gonna have, situations where Keyshawn may be out on the boundary because we do have a switch and Ja's going to line up with him in the slot? Or are we going to, bring Savage into the fold and just try to account for CeeDee Lamb every time he's in the slot? Because I feel like, honestly, our best chance of being effective against him is when he's out on the boundary, and you can use that sideline as your extra defender, and you can try and play leverage on him and at least give yourself a shot. But when he's in the slot, man, he's so dynamic. And I don't know. I just wonder, how we account for that, because those are the things that I think can kind of bite us in the butt,
Yeah. Yeah, it could for sure. Justin D in the chat said, what's the deal with Jair? He came in late, I guess. So if y'all are just tuning in, essentially they said that Matt Schneidman keyed up the Ken Shamrock entrance music, and Rob Domofsky put Jair in an ankle lock in practice, and that's how he hurt his ankle. So we're going to start spreading that rumor since everybody's already mad at Rob. We'll just throw some fuel on the fire there. You can hashtag fake news, but I have my sources, okay? So obviously we're just joking there. Let's lighten it up a little bit, guys. I know everybody's nervous about the playoff game. I'm not nervous a lick, dude. Like, what a season.
Up, man. I'm
what
fired
a
up.
season. All we can do is go down there and shock the world. If they boat race us, it's, hey, youngest team in the league. You know, the pressure's on them. There's no two ways about it.
That's right.
Yeah. And
right. Be excited. Look forward to it. This is a magical thing, man. Youngest team in the league with a first-year starter at the helm.
Yeah.
The pack is back. Ja wasn't lying.
I'll tell you, yeah. I'll tell you, we should have queued it up. I'll tell you this. Derek K, he's got the right idea. He says John Deere Green on a hot summer night. I know who else is relaxed. I bet he's farming tonight.
John Deere Green on a hot summer night. He rode Billy Bob loves Charlene.
That's how we got to roll into Dallas, man. We got to just
everybody with cowboy hats on.
Yeah, man, just loose, man, loose. Trust yourselves, trust the man next to you and in front of you, and believe in the game plan. Buy in. Go out there and be world beaters, man.
Aaron Jones is showing up in that sombrero, Tim. There's no doubt about it. Doug in the chat says, by the way, I watched the session with Monson talking about Sam Monson from PFF. They did downgrade Jair on the play where he lined up too far off of DJ Moore, who ran the underneath route for a chunk. So they kind of seen it the same way we did, I think is what you're saying, Doug. The people that are just rushing it off, just because they're watching the TV copy and they see the end of the play and they go, there's Quay. Joe Barry putting Quay Walker on DJ Moore. He's a moron. And I'm like, please, guys, watch
what you
tape.
Should be seeing is you should be seeing Quay Walker doing his job, which is being the quarterback of that defense and knowing that if we got a busted coverage, it's on my ass to go out there and do it.
Gotta get it. Gotta get on him.
Yeah. Gotta get it. And what did we see? We saw effort from Quay Walker on that play. I mean, that really honestly could have been worse when you look at that one. That could have went for a heck of a lot more than 28 yards or whatever it was. So
yeah, for sure. John Schmidt, great question. He says, can you bracket in the slot? Best way to double there versus the boundary. If you're asking, can you play bracket coverage on the slot? There's a couple of different things you can do. It just depends on the defensive play call. Now, if you're calling cover one man, what you're essentially saying, if you want to quote unquote bracket him, is have whoever is playing him in cover one man play one of two ways, right? If you go cover one man, you need to play underneath outside leverage and funnel him to the safety, and you can really have the safety post snap clamp down, right? And you can bracket that way. If you're going to be showing some kind of too high look and you stay in two man, which they do very, very seldom. You guys know I pointed that out a couple weeks back. We actually ran two men under inside the 10. And I was like, if this doesn't work, Barry's getting roasted, but it worked to perfection. You could tell, I can't remember which quarterback it was, but he dropped back and was just like, are they playing with 14 defenders right now? You could just see it. So I think Barry's done really good inside the 20 there personally in the red zone. But as far as bracketing the slot, it does make things difficult. The other thing too, if you bracket that way, think about this. Put yourself in the mind of Keyshawn Nixon. If CeeDee Lamb's in the slot and you're going bracket cover and I'm playing outside leverage, I get help in center field and he's really going to clamp down. He's not just going to play quote unquote safety. He's really going to hammer down and we're going to double this guy in a bracket look. Now think of your nickel who's playing outside leverage, thinking of that, and they run the ball right at you.
Yep.
See the disadvantage? You're already in a bad position because your first move is going to be get outside. And when you're in man coverage, you're looking at their hips. You're looking at their midsection. You're focused on them. You're like Coach LaFleur said, keeping your eyes on your work. You're not looking here. In zone, it's okay. Whether it's country quarter spot drop, cover 3 spot drop, or if it's zone match principles, your first look is the quarterback. You're watching him, got him. If he breaks out, if he goes to the flat, then it's man coverage. If he crosses my face, then I pass it off. All those things come into play, but your eyes are on the quarterback and you're able to play the run a little bit better. Man coverage is a totally different mindset, especially when you go through the entire offseason preparing to play zone, and now all of a sudden you're in man mid-season. But they played a ton of man this year. There's no two ways about it. If people want Barry gone, I get it. I think we can upgrade too. But to say his scheme doesn't work, we're not even running the scheme that we brought them in to run. We have changed things up so much this year. It's hard to, and I think they've done a decent job considering how much they've had to change. Again, I think we're top 10 in scoring defense once again. I'm almost positive we're top 10 in red zone defense. I showed you the numbers. They improved from pretty much every statistical category the year before. People were completely down on the run defense this year. Lo and behold, we're allowing like 200 less rushing yards this year. We've created more sacks, more pressures. The only thing that's really hurt us is the turnovers, and we've seen. I'm pretty sure, Tim. I feel comfortable saying that I've counted 6 dropped interceptions this year. 6. So that hurts. Andy A. Pack in the house. Appreciate you, buddy. Always bringing the facts for us. He says number 9 red zone defense. So yeah, there you go, man. Again, though, boy, if for some reason, and you guys know I'm kind of, this is tongue in cheek. I'm joking here, but if Belichick were to call up LaFleur and say, "Hey, man, I'd like to coach at 1265," Joe, buddy, I don't know what you're going to be doing, but you're not going to be DC anymore. Come on in, Bill. Same thing with Wink. If Wink's on board with being the number 2 to LaFleur, problem with Wink is in Baltimore, something happened in Baltimore. He decided, I don't want to be here anymore. He goes to the Giants. Something happened there. He stormed out of the building and went to Florida. If everywhere you go, it smells like crap, you might want to check your boot. You know what I'm saying? So that makes me a little nervous there. But there are some other better young defensive minds, obviously. But we'll see, though, man. We might be looking up after Sunday, the postgame show, going, all right, guys, let's go on to the divisional round. You never know.
That's right.
Anyway, parting thoughts, Tim. Let's wrap this thing up, buddy.
Let's stay on that right there. I mean, if you don't believe your team's got a chance to win, then what the heck you rooting for them for? I believe we can do it. Is it going to be difficult? Of course. Are we going to boat race the Cowboys? Absolutely not. I think a close game is going to favor the Packers, and there's a lot of truth to the thought of, try the key to beat Dallas is, Paul Brettel touched on it earlier, talking about, generate takeaways, man. You've got to tilt the balance. You got to be +1, +2 against this team and try and get a defensive score, try and get any extra points that you can get and put on the board and force Dak and those boys to play from behind. That's the best chance you're going to have. I'll tell you right now, this is definitely a game where we want the ball if we win the toss. I don't think we defer in this one. I think we put Jay Money and the boys out there and see if we can march down and put a tutter on the board to get started. And, let our defense kind of pin their ears back and go as hard as they can because, when it comes to this Dallas offense, man, we cannot cower in that spotlight. We cannot let that moment be too big for us. If I'm Keyshawn Nixon and I'm lined up on CeeDee Lamb, one of the best in the business, man, I'm rerouting his butt every time that ball snapped. I'm getting physical. I'm letting him know I'm there all day long. I'm not playing off. I'm not going to give you your respect and let you make a double move on me and stick it to the boundary for 50 yards. It's not happening. You're going to know I'm here all day long. And that's how we need to approach this. We got to be fearless. And like you said, a lot of pressure's on Dallas, man. They've been choke artists in the postseason for a while. Really and whether that's at home or on the road. So, I'm not going to say all the pressure's on them, but certainly probably more of it. And I think this young Packers team might just be they might be oblivious to all of that. We can talk about the fact that this is a first playoff game for a lot of these young players and first time playing in Dallas for a lot of these young players. Who knows? They might not even be distracted by this nonsense. They could be looking at this like, it's another game. Let's go out and do our thing. Yep. See what happens. I think you want to be loose and you want to just go out there and play your best ball, man, and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, definitely. I'm all about it too, man. If you're going to be aggressive, go big, right? That's the problem with what's happened with Jair and those explosives the last couple of weeks is there's not, like last week, he wasn't all in on the play call, right? It's, am I playing? Like, how do you not know that you're playing man? Get over here. And then on the other play underneath, like we talked about the chunker, not being aggressive. Get in there, dude. Like you said, smack them right in the mouth. If you're going to play press, if you're going to play man, you got to be aggressive. The young guys are doing it. Valentine's doing it. And I'm not suggesting that they're telling them to get up there and play physical press, but when the call is man coverage, those guys are in position. They're where they need to be, and they've really carried the load this year. But yeah, you get up there and play a little press, smack them in the mouth.
Roadhouse.
Make CD earn it. Make CD earn it.
And we know we're gonna. Hey, I'd be telling Keyshawn, hey, you're gonna have help. You're gonna have safety help over the top every rip over there. So go up there and don't be intimidated. Press up if you have to, because if you think letting a guy like CeeDee Lamb get a full head of steam and give him room to make moves is going to help you, like that's not going to help you. Playing soft on him, he's going to light you up. I'd rather go ahead and be physical. Yeah, mix in a little press there. Why not? And if you get roasted and the safety helps late, it is what it is. Like you said, Clayton, right? Go big or go home. This is playoff football. All bets are off. Tomorrow's not promised. Just go out there and throw everything you have out there at them, man. That's your best way to even have a shot, you know?
Definitely. This is kind of cool. John Schmidt, we'll wrap it up with this. John Schmidt in the chat said 2014 Dez Catch Game is on NFL Network right now if you want to watch something after this. I'm in, John. You sold me, baby. What'd you say, Tim? You ain't going to watch it?
Today's the anniversary of that game.
The exact day?
I believe so.
I've seen all the picks today. So that
Dez had a tweet about it. You know, he's still adamant, you know, the anniversary of the catch, you know, when I changed the game forever, blah, blah, blah. You know, my message to Dez Bryant is you need to do what you did with the ball that day and just let it go, bro.
Yeah.
Let it go because you didn't catch it. I was at that game. It was actually my wife's first trip to Lambeau for a Packer game. So she got a playoff game and the infamous Dez Bryant catch game. Or no catch game. But yeah, man, what an experience, man. That was burned in my head. Sam Shields did get roasted on that play. I mean, we can't deny that. But, you know, it is what it is, man. I think the right call was made.
Yeah. And, you know, I had a friend here in town, here in Tennessee, and he's a Dallas fan. And we had the conversation about it, and we broke it down. And I showed him freeze frame after freeze frame. I'm like, hey, tell me when he has possession. Well, he's got possession right here, Clay. Okay. Then how does the ball move?
Look at the one they called back on Bo.
Right, exactly.
Very similar type of scenario, other than the fact that Bo's never hit the ground.
Bro, look at Megatron.
The Dez one hit the ground.
Megatron catches the ball, doesn't get touched, puts the ball against the ground to stand up, and it falls out of his hand. They call that incomplete. And you're going to try to convince me that someone falling down, juggling the ball, then slamming it on the ground and it bouncing up, you've got possession? Get away from me, bro. Listen, you lie to your friends, I'll lie to mine, but let's don't lie to each other, because that's the biggest crock of BS when you're trying to convince me that's a catch. But I am a Packer fan. Andy Apac says, I need a Rashawn Gary legacy game. Yes, my jersey should be here any day, guys. I'm recreating it. I'm going to kill the cam here. Tim, sing for him for just a second.
Uh-oh. I know what you're doing. Clayton's probably looking for that.
All right, now
looking for the patch. Did you find the patch?
I got it. So I got the John Madden patch from the Thanksgiving Day game. So I'm getting the authentic Rashawn Gary white away, and that's going to be sewn on. So we got a complete replica of his Thanksgiving Day performance that completely turned this season around. So I don't want to hear anybody in the chat dogging Rashawn Gary. He's just as responsible as Jordan Love for how this season. Nah, I can't say that. This is all Jordan Love. You kidding me? That kid is balling out, man. There's no two ways about it. Last question, Doug. Appreciate you taking the time to top it out. I'm going to ask Clayton to find out how effective the Cowgirls blitz is. I hear they're good rushing 4, but if they don't get home, they can be had when they bring it. The only metric I'll be able to give you here, buddy, I'm going to pull it up real quick. It was under defensive identity, if I remember correct, Tim. We hit on it briefly. Let's see here. Bang. All right, let me kill my cam so you don't see my nostrils here with my old self up in the camera. So he's asking about the blitz, how effective they are at the blitz. Well, I promised him we're done after this. So when you look at their blitz, all right, 3 rushers, they do it 25th most in the league, okay? So they don't do it very often, just 3 rushers. 31st in EPA. 4 rushers, just a 4-man rush, 6th in EPA. 5 rushers, they do it 7th most in the league, right? So they blitz heavy with 5 rushers, 4th in EPA. And when they bring 6+ rushers, 26th in the league, they're 1st in EPA. So to answer your question, when they bring 3 rushers, right, which is very seldom, I think we would all agree, They're 31st in EPA, not good at all. Dead, pretty much dead last in the league. 4 rushers, they're 6th. 5 rushers, they're 4th. 6 rushers, they're 1st. So to answer your question, they're good at rushing the quarterback. They're good at blitzing. There's no two ways about it. Now, when they get pressure, which is 40% of the time, according to this SIS data on the 33rd team, it's just listed as pressure percentage, okay? 40%. That percentage rank is 4th in the league. Maybe they're just talking about how often they bring pressure. Nonetheless, EPA 8th in the league. So, yeah, Doug, they're good at getting after the quarterback, buddy. I wish I had other news than that, but that's what the data is suggesting. So hopefully
thank
that
God Jordan's at the point where he's seeing it as best as he has all year. He's playing his best ball. He's not taking the extra hitch. He's not patting the ball. He's not standing in there getting killed like he was doing earlier in the season. I fully expect us to have some momentum offensively here. I mean, he's going to take that snap. He may be rolling right. He may be rolling left right away. Ball's got to come out fast. And yeah, we have to attempt to run. I mean, sometimes that's the best way to deal with the blitz, man, is to just, use it against them and try and run away from it. Matt LaFleur's got to be in his bag. We know that. If he calls another game like he did against Chicago, we got a real good chance against this elite pass rush from Dallas.
Definitely. Brandy Lewis in the chat says Parsons will stunt inside a bunch. Brandy, they move him all over the place. Great eye with that. Yep. I'm telling you, it's just he's a dog. He can rush from anywhere. And he doesn't, some guys, it's like their left leg, they seem more coordinated with it and driving off of it. Others, it's the right leg with him, man. It's totally different ball.
I think of that Baldy's breakdown we went over. I believe it was from the Detroit game where we had like 3 guys blocking Aiden Hutchinson. You remember that? It was like we had like AJ hit him, and then you had, we had a pulling guard hit him, and then we had, our tight end hit him on one play. It's like we may need to see more of that. It's going to be, blocking by committee, I think, especially dealing with Micah Parsons moving all over. He's, I don't know where he's a bigger threat, off the edge or mugging up the middle,
Right. Yeah. And we got the ladies, man. They're bringing the thunder tonight. Obviously, Brandy in here. We got Carly in the house. We got Brookie in here. So good to see y'all in here. Appreciate y'all coming in and talking ball and actually adding some intelligence to us knuckleheads here tonight. So good to see everybody in the chat. Let's go watch that game on NFL Network. Want to tell everybody, if you're a member of the PTA Posse, a YouTube member, we're going to be giving away during the postgame show an autographed James Lofton card. Okay, so it's autographed by Hall of Famer James Lofton, played for the Packers in the 80s. So anyone who is a YouTube member by midnight Saturday, we'll put your name on a wheel, we'll spin it during the post-game show and give that away. So we're still waiting to hear back from a couple people that we gave away an autographed David Bakhtiari jersey. So that was the last piece of memorabilia we gave away. We like to do that for our YouTube members. So don't feel obligated to join, but it's just a way for us to, kind of give back to those who are choosing to support the channel and just show how much we appreciate y'all. So there you go. Brookie in the chat says calling them cowgirls is an insult to girls. I agree. I completely agree.
I love it.
Yeah. So, Brooke is just fine. LOL. Now you're known as Brookie. You'll never get over it. All right. That's the way it is. All right. Andy APAC looked like he re-upped his membership. He said, I'm going to grab that card real quick. So appreciate you, Andy. You're awesome, dude. Let's get out of here, guys. Let's go watch that show. That game, I should say. I'm eager to see that and just relive how the Cowboy fans absolutely lost their mind. But if y'all would, on your way out, hit that like button for us so other Packer fans can find this podcast, find this channel. Appreciate you. Also, if you like this kind of content, scan that QR code in the upper right or just search anywhere you get your podcast, PackerNet Podcasts. And you'll find this show in podcast form, as well as Ryan Schlip's Packernet podcast, the flagship show, Packernet After Dark, where it's a call-in show. You call, leave a voicemail. Ryan plays them over the air, and he responds to them. Really cool show there. And then, obviously, we got Jake Shavink with the It's Always Draft Season podcast as well. So appreciate everybody hanging out with us. We'll see you in the morning for Good Morning Lambeau as we get closer to game day, Packers-Cowboys wild card round. Really looking forward to it. Tim, thank you for rushing in here, buddy. Appreciate you. Want to give a special shout out to our boy Paul Brettel for jumping on with us. Guys, go show him some love on Twitter. Make sure you're following him at Paul_Brettel and check out his writing over at PackersWire.com. Just a phenomenal man. And I love what he does for us Packer fans throughout the season and even in the offseason. So the content will not stop when it comes to Paul. So appreciate everybody. Thank y'all so much. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack, go.
The power sweep actually is the lead play in our offense. We ask our YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet, get an isolation with the linebacker. Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.